Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Lone Vic and we are going into the dream world with Imaginarium, a how to play video for Imaginarium, the Dream Factory, combined with the Imaginarium Chimera add-on that has been published in 2020. Now, Imaginarium itself, it's an older game, to be honest, from my collection. It's not something that's brand new. The Imaginarium add-on was published like 2 years ago, so a few years after the core game, but I've decided to make a how to play video because the game recently hit our tables again, and I reminded myself of how much fun is it to play and how much fun it is to look at all those weird and quirky artworks that remind me of Monty Python animations and some weird dreamy landscapes. So without further delay, let's dive into how to play a game of Imaginarium, how to set it up with and without the Chimera add-on. I will be including all the information in the video. This doesn't have a solo mode, so there won't be a solo playthrough or a solo rules video, unfortunately. This is a game for 2 to 5 players, but you can also play it in 6 players in teams of 3. I'll be covering how to play the game for a normal mode of 2 to 5 players. So if you like the video, if you like my channel, if you want to support what I do over here, you can click the like button under the video, hit the subscribe and ring the notification bell to be notified about new videos upcoming on the channel. And now let's take a look at how to set up Imaginarium and also the expansion Chimera. Okay guys, so let's now start the setup. So I've put all of the main components on the table already, and this is the game board. This is the tray with the resources: wood, copper, crystal, and coal. You've got each player who has a player board of their own, 6 pieces in their player color, with the screen of their player color as well, and with their mini. So those are the main components. Now place the victory point markers somewhere near the main board so that players can easily reach them. Each player randomly chooses one player board and takes a look at what he has here in the corner. So those are the starting resources for each player. So now this number in the upper right corner shows which spot on the turn order track the player starts on. So in my case, this is a 5. Then we have the number of resources each player gets, and those resources along with these player markers and everything else should be hidden behind the screen. But I won't be doing that because, well, nobody's peeking, and then I will be discussing things on this screen as well. So basically you place your resources here. So I get 1 copper and 1 wood and 3 charcolium, which is not treated as a resource. So anytime a game mentions a resource, it includes only these 3 and not the charcolium. And then finally, you take the deck of all the bric-a-brac machines and look through them to find a machine called P1 and P4. So as you can see, these numbers are here next to the name or below the name of the machine, and you place these 2 machines vertically in the workshop of the player who owns them. So in my case, this will be the P1 machine and this will be the P4 machine because I'm starting with those. Now, once each player has received all of their machines, you take the rest of the machine deck, you shuffle it well, obviously, you place it here where the pile is, and you reveal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 machines. And now the way that you do it is that you look at the upper left corner of each card, which is the level of the machine, and the machines should be placed so that the lowest level machines start from the right side, so the furthest from the deck. So let's take a look. The first machine is level 3, the second one is also level 3, so I'm moving this one over here and placing this one next to it. The next machine is a level 2, so I will place it lower. Then we have a level 1 machine, and now I have another level 1, so I will slide the first one to the right, another level 1, so these 2 slide to the right as well, and the last one is also a level 1, so this is the order that we have in the beginning of the game. Take the assistant deck, shuffle it well, and place the deck over here and uncover 3 assistants that will be hireable in the game. Take the deck of project tiles, shuffle them, and distribute as many as indicated by the player count. So in a 2-player game, cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces with projects. In a 3-player game, you get 1 additional space for 7 projects. 4-player game and 5-player game are over here. So if I'm setting up, for example, for a 2-player game, I will uncover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects, and the rest goes back into the box. And this is the setup finished for the core box game. Now, if you want to play with the Chimera add-on, there are a few additional steps that you need to take. And I will just slide my screen over here because I will need some more room. So if you have the Chimera add-on, take the Chimera board and place it next to the main board so that there is a continuation of the turn order track over here. Take 1 marker of each player and put it in the first space of the dream track on the Chimera board. Take the 5 P0 starter machines, which are identical for each player, and place 1 horizontally next to each player's player board. And last but not least, create a stack of dream tokens next to the board, face down. As you can see, there are a lot of them. I won't be taking out all of them, but I will place only a part of those, and place 1 dream face up on every illustration of every machine that's available right now. So those are the modifications for the setup of the Chimera add-on. Once you place this Chimera board next to the board, fill in each of those printed spaces with a relevant resource or victory point token. So for example, you should place 2 crystals here, 2 Charcolium over here, and also over here, 2 Charcolium over here, 2 copper in this space, 2 wood in this space, and 1 VP tokens over here, 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 and 2 victory points over here. Okay guys, so let's now dive into the game turn order and all of the actions that the players will be doing during the game. Okay, so for the demonstration purposes, I will add a 2nd player figurine on the turn track so that it will be easier to show me how the turn flows. So first, in a turn, we have the planning phase. And during the setup, you were placing your figurines on this turn order track based on the number on your player board. So right now, the person who is closest to the bric-a-brac machine, because that's how the dream producing machine is called, is going to move first. So in this case, this will be the orange player. And during the planning phase, you have a choice of 2 options. You either move to any of these spaces over here above the dream cards, above the mechanical machine cards, and this will allow you to purchase this card which you are above, or you can move here to the Charcolium extractor and basically just collect some Charcolium. So this is what you are planning to do for the phase. So let's say that the orange player will move over here to gain the 3 Charcolium. And as the white player, I will go over here to collect a card. And you don't collect cards or gain Charcolium just yet. This is just the planning phase. So you are just occupying spaces, and each space can be occupied only by 1 figure. So right now, these 2 spaces would be unavailable if any other players want to move. After each player has occupied a space on this track over here, we go into the implementation phase. So the implementation phase has 5 steps each player has to resolve in turn order. So the turn order is being resolved through movement from this side of the board over here. So the player who is earliest on this track over here will be the first player, and then we will go over here and the last player will be this. So in this case, the white player will be resolved first and the orange player will be resolved second. Let's talk about the 5 steps. They are here described on your player screen so that you can find them easily. And the first step that you do is you use the machines that you have already built in your workshop. So in the beginning of the game, every player has 2 machines built. And if those machines can be operated, so they don't have a lightning symbol in the corner, which would mean that they are instant machines that only activate once built and only a single time, you basically operate those machines. So those 2 machines will give me 1 crystal and 1 charcolium. So I collect the charcolium and the crystal and I add them behind my player screen. And this is it for using the workshop machines. This is not a must. You can use the machines if you want to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But you can only use a maximum of those 4 machines that you have built in your workshop. This one, horizontally, is not yet built, so you don't operate it in this first step. Now, the second step of the implementation phase is picking up a reserved machine or extracting the charcolium. So for the white player, this would be picking up the machine. The orange player, once it's their turn, would get the free charcolium behind their screen in this second step. So I'm resolving this as follows. In order to pick up the machine, I need to spend charcolium in the amount equal to the level of the machine and the number printed above next to the space I'm standing on. So this machine costs 7 in total, this one costs 6, this one costs 5, and the one I'm standing on is level 1, and this is +1, so I spend 2 charcolium. I collect the machine, put it horizontally next to my player board, and if I'm playing with the Chimera add-on, I also collect the dream piece and put it behind my screen. And that's basically it. You don't refresh and you don't move this track after this action has been done. Now, the third step is that you carry out 2 actions. And those 2 actions are being selected using these arrows on your player board, and you have to turn this arrow, so you can't do the same identical 2 actions 2 turns in a row. So first, before you carry out the actions, you turn the arrows at least 1 step, and then you carry 1 or both of the actions that you have selected. And there is a total of 6 actions, as you can see over here. So let's go through those actions right now. So going from here and around clockwise, we have the action of recruiting. If you select this action, you spend charcolium to recruit a specialist from the ones available right now. You have to spend the amount of charcolium that's printed on the card, and you place the specialist card here on top of your workshop. You have 3 spaces only, as you can see, so once you recruit your 3rd specialist, you can't use this action no more because you can't replace specialists during the game. And each of those specialists has a passive ability that modifies the gameplay for you a bit, and they are very well described in the rulebook, so I won't be going through them right now. The second action is this one, which is the extract action, and it only makes you receive 3 charcolium from the reserve. So if I choose this, I take 3 charcolium and hide it behind my screen, and that's it. The next action is repair, and this allows you to repair 1 of your horizontally placed machines and place it into your workshop. The trick is that you have to have 1 space free in your workshop to host the repaired machine, and you have to, as you can see, spend the amount of resources which are printed here on the left side. So in this case, a crystal and 1 wood. Or in the case of the starter, 1 crystal, 1 copper, and 1 wood. So let's say hypothetically that I want to do this action and I spend 1 crystal and 1 wood, and I have a free space in my workshop, so I place this machine here as repaired. And automatically, once a machine is repaired, you can operate it once. So this one would give me 1 coal and 1 wood if fixed, and this one allows me to change any resource into copper. So wood or crystal or copper can be changed into 1 copper. And you will know why copper can be changed into copper later on, because this is a bit tricky right now, but it will make sense. So remember, repairing 1 machine, but only if you have an empty space in your workshop. The next action is called carry out transactions, and here you have this little help of what transactions you can do, and you do 3 transactions with 1 single action. So you can exchange 1 coal for 1 wood, or vice versa, 1 wood for 1 coal, or charcolium as it is called in the game. 2 charcolium will give you 1 copper, or 1 copper can be exchanged for 2 charcolium. 3 charcolium can be exchanged for 1 crystal, or 1 crystal can be exchanged for 3 charcolium, and 5 charcolium can buy you a victory point, but you can't sell victory points for charcolium, so this is only a 1-direction action. And you do 3 of those swaps with 1 of those actions activated, and that's it. The next action is called dismantling, and this allows you to dismantle a machine from your workshop, thus freeing up a space for a new machine, or dismantling a machine that you haven't yet repaired. And now there are 2 different things that you have to know about this. If you are dismantling a machine that hasn't been yet repaired, you just put it on the discard pile, and you can receive any of the resources that were required to repair it, so any that are printed here on the side, in the amount of the level of the machine. So the level of this machine is 1, so I can choose 1 crystal, 1 copper, or 1 wood. If the level of the machine was 2, I would be able to choose 2 of those resources. So for example, 1 crystal and 1 copper, or 1 copper and 1 wood, or 1 wood and 1 crystal. And if the level of machine was 3, I would take 1 crystal, 1 copper, and 1 wood. And that's it. And hide this behind your screen, and the card goes to discard. Now, when you are dismantling a machine that's in your workshop, then there is 1 rule that you have to remember additionally, that this dismantled machine can only have 1 card here, because you'll be able to combine machines or separate machines, so you can only dismantle a machine that is a single card, not a stack of cards. And if you are dismantling a machine from your workshop, which is already repaired, you can get double the resources that you paid for repairing the machine. So in the case of this card, I would get 2 crystals and 2 wood back behind my screen, or you can get the number of victory points equal to the level of this machine. So in this case, 1 victory point. So it's either or. Either you get double the resources or you get the victory point. And additionally, if you are playing with the Chimera add-on, if you are dismantling a machine, then you can obtain new dream fragments. And if you are dismantling a machine that wasn't yet in your workshop, so a horizontal machine, you just take 1 dream fragment from the top of the pile and you place it face up behind your screen. If you are dismantling a machine from your workshop, you take as many dream fragments from the pile as is the level of the machine. So for example, if I dismantle this, I take 2, and you select 1 of those to keep and 1 of those to discard. And those dream fragments are received irrelevant of which option you chose. So whether you choose to take victory points for dismantling a machine from your workshop or the resources, you still take the fragments in the explained amount. The last action is the most complicated one, and this is the action of reorganizing your workshop. So reorganizing your workshop means that you can put some cards on top of other cards to modify their behavior, or you can split stacks of cards because maybe you want to dismantle them later on. So this will take a bit of a longer explanation. So let's dive into this reorganization right now. So here you have the combinations of machines that can be placed on top of one another. So if a machine has this crossed out symbol over here, that means that nothing can be placed on top of it and it can't be placed on top of anything. So those machines exist only as solitaire cards in your workshop. But here on this legend, you have information on what you can or can't do. So you cannot combine red cards together because all red cards have this symbol, those red machines, which are used for attacking. You can't combine two blue cards with one purple card, so you can't have a stack of blue, blue, purple. By the same token, you can't have a stack of purple, purple, blue. But you can have stacks of blue, purple, or yellow cards in a number of 2 or 3, depending on the card. So if you have identical colors of purple, blue, or yellow, you can stack those. You can place a purple card on a singular blue card, and you also can stack green cards on top of each other as well. This is pretty well explained in the rulebook as well, but I will go through those very quickly. Green cards are defense cards, and defense cards have different effects which don't stack themselves, but you can stack those defense cards up to 3 into one stack just to free up space in your workshop for other cards, and all of the defense effects in a stack will be active. So this is just an action to free up space. The blue cards, as you can see, produce resources and have those numbers here. So if I have a P4 card, this means that I can stack another P4 blue card, so an identical card on this one. And if I have a stack of 2 cards, then this card won't produce 1 resource anymore, but this stack will produce 3 resources. And if I have 3 cards in a stack, then this stack will produce 5 of a given resource. So if you see 3 numbers here, that means that this can be a stack of 2 or 3 cards, and the number of resource produced will change. Same goes, for example, for this charcolette, which produces the Charcolium, and it has 3 numbers as well. That means that you can stack up to 3 charcolettes on one another, and you can produce 1, 3, or 7 Charcolium with a single stack. Now, this transmuter can be placed on a single blue card, as you can see from this graphic over here. So let's say that I'm taking this rotorette and placing this transmuter on this, because you can see here you've got the numbers of the cards which it interacts with. So there is no P1 here, so it doesn't interact with the charcolette, but it interacts with a P4 card which is called rotorette. So if I cover this, then this means that this rotorette produces a crystal, but it automatically is changed into this copper element, and it frees up space. But if I add a second T2 transmuter on top of this stack right now, this will mean that this single crystal produced by this card on the bottom will be transmuted into not 1 but 3 copper. So those are the combinations that you can do. So using this, you will be able to basically figure this out. And just to mention and just to clarify, if you stack 2 transmuters on top of each other without a blue card on the bottom, this will also enable you to swap 1 resource, so 1 wood or 1 crystal into copper, but to 3 copper basically. So you would also be able to swap 1 copper into 3 copper by this logic. So this is a bit tricky at first, but if you follow those information next to the cards, which tell you what cards can those cards interact with, and if you remember that some of the cards can't interact with anything, you should be able to figure it out pretty quickly. Now, I know that this is a bit unintuitive in the beginning, so if you have any questions, please write them in the comments, and I will try to explain this in detail in the comment section for individual cases. Okay, so this is it for the reorganize action. And additionally, if you are doing a reorganize action and you are playing with the Chimera add-on, you can take off a nightmare which is on top of your dream track right now. And we'll be talking about the dream track in just a moment. But remember, if you are doing a reorganize action, you'll be able to remove a nightmare from your track. So 6 actions to select during this second step of carrying out 2 actions. You select 2 of the 6 actions and you carry them out. But if you are playing with the Chimera add-on, you can always replace one of those actions with a dream action. So basically you choose two actions, you do one of them, and the second action is dreaming. And what happens when you dream is that you take all of your tokens that you have behind your screen with dreams, and they are in different colors: red, green, blue, yellow, black, which are nightmares. And you do the following steps. You place your dream fragments next to your player board, and you can create a track of those. So let me take a few additional ones. Let's say that I have a selection of dreams behind my screen right now. So basically you can create a track of those dreams, but the track cannot contain two identical dreams. So you can't place two identically colored dreams in one turn. And this is the track that I've built because I've got only yellow, green, and red dreams. So there you go. This is the maximum that I can do with 3 colors, and this means that I move 3 spaces along this track. And there are some forks in those roads that you can follow, but every single time you move over a resource, so for example 1, 2, 3 in this case, I collect the resource that's placed on this board. And if another player crosses an empty space that resource was in, they only get 1 Charcolium, regardless of what the original resource was. And after you create this stack of dreams or your chain of dreams and you move on the dream track, if you have a nightmare, so a black dream behind your screen, you can place 1 nightmare at the end of any other player's dream track, and that nightmare will mean that whenever that player with the nightmare dreams, they can add only 1 single dream to their track and move only once on the dream track here, regardless of how many dream tokens they have behind their screen. So now this explains how the reorganize action helps you, because if somebody added you a nightmare at the end of this dream chain of yours, right? Then if you do a reorganize action, you can take the nightmare out and it will enable you to continue dreaming for longer and moving longer on the track. One more thing that you need to know is that if, for example, this is my dream chain right now, so green, yellow, and red, and in the next turn I decide to dream again, I can again add only different colored tokens to the dream, right? So all the tokens that I add as new tokens have to be of different colors, but if I connect a red one to a red one, then this doesn't break the chain. So those 2 red ones connected one after another would mean that I would be able to move 2 spaces with those 2 tokens, and then, for example, 2 additional spaces with those 2. So if, for example, in this turn I only add the red token, I would be able to move 2 spaces on the dream track. And if, hypothetically, I had another red token behind my screen, and in the 3rd turn I decided to dream again, I would be able to add 1 more red token, and then, for example, a yellow and green token, and that would allow me to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the dream track in 1 turn. So this is how the dreams work. And remember that if somebody reaches this space or crosses this space, the game ends automatically. And once you are done with carrying out your 2 actions in the 3rd step of this implementation phase, there is the 4th step, which is completing projects. So you check which projects you can complete, and you can complete more than 1 in a single turn, and you place your markers on the projects that you completed. And those projects are well explained in the rulebook, so I won't be going into detail on the conditions of explaining those, but once you complete the project, if you are the first person to complete it, you get the number of victory points that are on the project, and you hide those behind your screen. If you complete a project as a 2nd or 3rd player, so you're not the first one basically, you get 1 less point for each of those completed projects. And you can't complete the same project twice in a game, so only 1 marker of each color on a project. And if you run out of markers, you can't complete any more. And after this, you do the 5th step, which is finishing your turn. And this means that you inform the other players that you have finished your turn. You place your handyman on the next empty space on the turn track. So in this case, I would place my handyman on the first space, and the orange one, if it was their turn, they would place there on the first available space behind me, and this would constitute the turn order for the next turn. So the white player would be first and the orange would be second. And then there is the last phase of the game turn, which is checking and resetting. So you check whether any player met the conditions of end game. So maybe they crossed this space or have 20 victory points behind their screen, and then you have to admit that and the game ends. Or if the game doesn't end, you basically reset the board and you continue on playing. So what do you do in order to reset the board? You discard the machine furthest to the right, along with the dream that was on it if you are playing with the Chimera add-on. You slide all of the cards as far to the right as possible. You add 2 new cards from the top of the deck. And if you are playing with the Chimera add-on, you add dream fragments on top of those. And if any assistants were purchased by any players during the turn, you fill in the empty spaces with new assistants. And now the board is refreshed and you can play another turn. And this is basically the whole game for Imaginarium. Now let's talk about the victory points at the end of the game. So once any player collects 20 victory points behind their screen, or if you're playing with the Chimera add-on, maybe a player crosses this space, the end game triggers, and the round in which the end game triggers is the final round. So after this end game is triggered, you calculate your points. And how you do it is very, very simple. The only points you get in the game are the ones you collect behind your screen during the game for the projects from the dream track. Some machines will produce victory points as well, for example, like this Diplomateur, and those are the points that you get. And then at the end of the game, each player uncovers their screen and shows the amount of resources they collected throughout the game. And you compare the amount of resources. The player who has the most Charcolium gets 2 victory points. The player who has the most copper collected gets 2 victory points. The player who has the most crystals collected also gets 2 victory points. And the player who has the most wood collected also gets 2 victory points. If any players have a draw when it comes to the most collected resources, they all get those 2 victory points. And then you sum up all the victory points that you have after that, and the player who has the most is the winner. And in the case of a draw, the players who are drawing add together the levels of each of their repaired machines at the end of the game, and then the highest score will win the game. And that's it, guys. I hope that you found this video helpful, and I hope that maybe it got you interested in the game of Imaginarium if you didn't know that it even exists, because I think that it's a very interesting game, especially from the artwork side, but also mechanically it works pretty well. If you liked the video and if it was helpful for you, in your opinion, you can always help out the channel by clicking the like button, ringing the notification bell, and hitting the subscribe to be notified about new videos on my channel and helping the channel grow. And for now, this is it from me. My name was Lone Vic. This was Imaginarium, the Dream Factory, with the optional add-on of Chimera, the expansion, and see you in the next of my videos on this channel. Thank you very much for watching and being here with me. Have a great day and bye-bye. See you soon.